Welcome to the MX podcast featuring Dan Roberts.
Okay, welcome to another episode of the MX podcast. Today, I'm joined by a friend of mine, Kim Ingleby. Now, Kim is a coach, she's a writer, she's a speaker, she's an athlete. And that's why I want to kind of stop because Kim, welcome. You're so many things. How do I define you?
Thank you for having me, Dan. And hello, anyone listening. How do you define me? Well, a client has said, several clients have called me the mind-body ninja. So I will just pass that across because they've worked with me. I've worked with them on some big stuff, and that's what they have called me. So a couple of others have called me their guardian angel and Yoda. So yeah, I help people in the mind, body and soul kind of connect all the areas together to overcome their limits and fears and live the life that they kind of wish for inside and out.
I mean, your CV is, I've known you for a while, your CV is crazy impressive. With professional athletes and I know you work with Strictly Come Dancing people and entrepreneurs, but a lot of Team GB guys. I'd like to kind of sort of take a step back. What was your journey? How did it all begin?
Yeah, it's kind of a big question, and it's the fundamental sort of question of my business. And my business is called Energized Performance, and the two strands are the energized bit is very much about the human angle and how someone feels about themselves and the confidence angle of that person. And that stemmed from my childhood and really not believing in myself. And we can go into that if you want, but it stemmed from a really deep sort of fundamental sort of core value of I want to help people who feel as badly, inverted commas, as I do. And that was the energized bit. And then as I came through that, I was lucky enough to sort of ride some ponies of other people's and work on farms, and found that I had a real affinity with riding horses, which led me into like competing and riding horses. And that's what moved me down south from Scotland. Although I don't sound Scottish, but that's another family history thing. But then I worked with sports people, and I realized that almost like the same fears and doubts happened with performance in sport. And so I wanted to help.
What kind of fears do you mean? Like a confidence? Or
Yeah, so as an athlete, people like not feeling good enough as an athlete, and they were doubting their ability, and they were sort of stuck in a gap of like they didn't want to fail, but they feared success. And I was working a lot with riding myself. And so the riders were putting all of their energy and time into the horse. The horse looked amazing. It was having the best diet ever, the best care. And then they weren't doing anything for themselves. And I remember at school saying to my PE teacher, who I still remember, Nori Berner, and saying to him, I want to do a research project on rider fitness and why it matters. And he said, it doesn't and it won't, but go for it. And in a really positive way. He was like, it doesn't, because it didn't at that point. And I interviewed 2 or 3 international Olympic riders from around the world. And this is like way before, social media. So it wasn't easy to access them. I wrote them letters, pen and paper, came back, and they said, yes, it is important. And from that point, I had these 2 angles that were really, really important to me. And this was
How far back are we talking this?
So this came together at 16. And then my dad, who's a very private man, but he said, you're not studying sport at university, that's not going to have a career. And so I rode horses and worked in pubs, and I worked in nightclubs. Basically, I worked 24 hours to be able to ride horses, and then started my degree. But I did my degree in international business management, which really, really challenged me, but I think actually gave me the best foundation for my business now, but also gave me the edge of business knowledge. as soon as I graduated, I then went into personal training and sports therapy. And I remember my dad saying, you can get a good job now. And I said, oh, you said I can go and do this. And so then I went and did that. But at that point, there were 2 personal training courses with YMCA and Premier. That's all there was. Yeah. And so when I think of how the industry has changed where I started, it's like, as you know.
One of the things I want to talk about, actually, because this is so rare. I had a trainer called Ashley Borden on a couple of weeks ago. She's been a trainer for about 30 years over in LA. And it was so nice talking to someone who's been around for a while. So I love talking to you, because there's not many people who've been around for a while and also haven't become cynical, haven't left the industry, are still really well respected and also, doing good things. So it's such a treat for me to have someone like you on. But let's talk about that. How have you seen the industry change in the last 20 years?
Oh, wow. It's a great question. It has changed, so much, and evolved in a really positive way. I want to say that first, like in a really positive way, that I feel that wellness and health, and I put wellness and health ahead of fitness, because I think a lot of people strive for fitness, but they miss out wellness and health. And so they're doing the high fitness, they're working hard, but they're not really managing their own mental and physical health. And I think that the diversity and the breadth and the accessibility for anyone to help themselves is amazing. I think it's incredibly competitive. It's very fast paced. It's very diverse. And it's an exciting industry to be in. As you said, I'm still really positive about it.
It's quite rare, to have to stay positive, because I mentor so many personal trainers, and so many kind of have doubts after a while, like after 5 years or so. And it's like you have to, I think, keep on reminding yourself how lucky we are to be able to help people.
Yeah, I think there's also, I mentor a few. I think there's a real difference between wanting to work in the fitness industry and enjoying fitness. And I think a lot of people follow their passion of fitness, but don't realize that it is really hard work to sustain a career in it and to make a lifestyle. And maybe you might enjoy a different career and still love fitness, or you have to learn the art of having some boundaries, which is really challenging now with all the different mediums and things. But it's, I feel probably my passion and purpose is still there from a lot of the experiences that I've had personally, and the breadth and depth of people that I work with, and my desire to continue to learn, because there is always something that you can learn, which then means you can add more value to those that are working with you. So it's a real privilege to work so closely with someone, and I really respect anyone who comes to me and says, I would like your help, because that's a privilege. So I feel that it's my duty to continue to develop myself so that I can help them better.
Oh, well said. I like that.
This isn't prep. This is like, as you know, like we haven't planned this. I have literally nothing apart from a sleeping dog.
So look, let's go back. So you were like early 20s, you qualified as a trainer. You had, what was the first thing you did? Did you work in a gym, or did you self-energize straight away? What was going on?
Yeah, so I worked in a gym in London for about 3 or 4 months, and then knew that I wanted to, do energized. Yeah, I didn't want to be. I worked in it for a very well-known trainer who I completely respect, admire, and we have a good relationship. But I just knew that I didn't want to be in a gym in London. I'm very much an outdoor adventure kind of girl, and there's a real benefit of strength training and being in the gym, but I like to take that so that it's functional outside, even all those years ago. So I just wanted to do my own thing. Yeah, so I was in London for a little bit when I founded it, and then I moved back to Gloucestershire because I was still riding at that point. So I was riding for one of the Olympic selectors. So I was basically running energized. I was working in a small privately run gym, and I was competing horses. So I was kind of overdoing it because I was literally, like trying to run all these different things. And then it got to a point when I was competing at a high level on the horses, but I was, trying to fund that through working in the bar and doing my fitness and massage. And I remember being at an event and thinking, you are not safe to ride because you're too tired and you're not enjoying riding, which was the first time I'd ever felt that. And it was one of the hardest decisions in my career because I didn't have the financial situation to be able to event horses at the level I wanted to progress. And I also had this ambition with my business. And so that was a very hard decision. And that's when I gave up the one horse I had and gave up all the rides that I had and moved from there to Bristol. And I freelanced in a big gym, so in one of the David Lloyd's, and Energized all along was running, which everyone knew. But I had the bespoke, high-end gym in London experience. I had the small private gym experience, and then I had David Lloyd, and those were conscious decisions to understand if I wanted to grow my own business, but also to understand how different, gyms worked, and to really make myself work, to work in gyms, to work with different types of populations and clients, and to do the work. And
so the hours, right? I mean, you have to nowadays.
I put a lot. I put a lot of hours in it. Yeah.
So I first heard of you, I think it must have been about maybe like 12, 13 years ago. It's when I first started getting into the press, like in like the women's magazines, like Zest.
Yeah. We shared like pages, as it were, in sort of women's.
Exactly. And it was like quote me, like when I first started getting on, it always quote you as well. I was, oh, who's this girl? And I always liked your advice, and I always kind of followed you since then. Obviously, this was before social media, and half was websites back then. So I always liked your advice. But how did you get? I mean, it's quite hard to get in the press and to build a name and work with athletes. How did you go from a trainer in David Lloyd to working with Team GB athletes and getting in the press? And that's rare. It's not luck.
You've stumped me, because how have I done it? I've worked really hard. I think that's the bottom line. Is I've just like
were you doing qualification? Because I know what I did for me. I just studied nonstop, so I felt like I deserved success, as it were, because I worked so hard. I was like, well, I've worked so hard. I'm going to think when you feel like you deserve it, I think nice things kind of happen. But that was
that's really interesting. I'd say it's almost really different. Like if I had an idea, I would like write to an editor in the magazines. I remember writing to them all and just saying, this is who I am. This is what I do. If I can help you, let me know. These are my contacts. And then every like quarter, I would buy their magazines and I would say, like, I can write a feature, or I can answer your questions around this. And I just kept reaching out to people, but never sort of asking. I think often the mistake is sort of saying, do you have a fee, or do you have a budget for this? And obviously you have to earn a living, but I knew that you have to also build trust and respect. And so I just, kept putting myself out there. When I started, the industry was really young, and there also weren't that many, which is, now I'm thinking back, crazy. There weren't that many female trainers. I was the first female trainer in London, in this place. And I remember going in with my CV, and they were like, well, we need you to have some experience. And also, we don't have any females. I'm like, well, hi. And, they took a risk, and I'm very grateful of that. And, I think I was the second trainer in the gym in Gloucestershire. And, I think the biggest thing is remembering that people are people, like connecting with people on a human level. And how did I start to work with Strictly? Again, I wrote them a direct email. I wrote them a letter, like individuals. And you could say I did my research, but it was more like I felt I had a real connection with some of these people. And I was like, this is what I do. And I could help you with these things. And it just, I think some of them were so random, me reaching out, that people reached back out of curiosity. That was one reply. They were like, we've never had such a random email from somebody, completely random. So we will give you 10 minutes to talk to us. Like, that was a reply.
So for trainers listening on this, it's like, you do have to ask, you do have to put yourself out there.
Yeah, and these aren't like, oh, I did that and that happened every time. I probably did it 200 times, and then somebody would come back to me. And I think what's wise maybe to say now is that it's even more competitive. And as a really experienced trainer, it is as competitive for me now still, because I'm maybe, say, behind on some social media numbers and engagement numbers, which is what some people want. I'm older, so I don't look as good, in inverted commas, as what some people want. And there is diversity and things coming in, but
I mean, I found that too, Kim. I think what I've tried to remind myself is that no one really cares like what I did like 10 years ago or 5 years ago. And it's like, once I kind of accepted that it doesn't matter, what matters is like how I can help people today and how
exactly
today. And it's like, and it's a bit annoying when you have like you've done like really amazing things, but no one cares. And we shouldn't really care either. Otherwise we're living in the past. We have to constantly use those experiences and think, okay, I learned from that. That means we can help our current clients or our new clients even better.
Yeah, you have to evolve. And I think that's what sort of sharing that is like, if someone is saying, oh, I'm in my first or second or third year of any career and I'm finding it hard and there's all these experienced people. Well, trust me, the experienced people are also in a competitive environment with people, like other people, wanting maybe something different or something fresh, or you've got different knowledge. So like, remember that you have a unique thing that is your thing, and if you don't know what that is, work on finding it, and also know that will evolve, because what I'm doing now is not what I was doing 5 years ago.
So when you started off doing like personal training, did you, like, I went down a strength conditioning route. You go down a certain path when you first started training, or did you just take on as many different types of people as you could?
I had a bit of a variety just by the environments that I was in. So I had a bit of but I was known for endurance strength training. So like running, triathlon, and equestrian.
Had you competed? Because I know you've done adventure marathons, right, all over the world, haven't you?
Yeah.
Had you started doing those like marathons and adventure races back then, or did that come?
No, that's another. So I've ridden 3-day eventing for Scotland. Yeah. Then I did Team GB age group triathlon and aquathon. So I went to the World and European Championships. Then I got really ill.
Stop a second. Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah, kind of, it feels like another lifetime ago.
Yeah, that's still amazing. Incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I think the triathlon was more amazing. Well, yeah, the whole thing is, when I reflect back, it's pretty cool. Yeah, and I did an Ironman for my best friend who lost her baby, so I did it for charity. I did an Ironman in 2012, and then 2013 I got very, very, very ill, and then after that came into that's how the adventure marathons came about. But that sounds like I just run marathons, but I've been last in marathons, and like literally last. No one believes me. They're like, no, you weren't last. I was like, no, I was last. I can show you I was last. They'd packed up, gone home. I was last. And that was, a big journey to have been so ill, to do a marathon and be last, but also get over, my identity of the stuff I've just said. It was a massive, massive transition. And I think the life things that have happened to me, I have done a lot of work on being able to talk about it, because I'm actually, fundamentally, I mean, maybe you can pick it up, but really shy. And so, sort of sharing things, I've invested in a lot of, as well as professional learning, professional coaching, and, support. And I think maybe looping back to an early question, how am I still in the industry? I think that is one thing that a lot of trainers are scared of doing, is investing in professional support as well as professional learning. And I think that it's absolutely key, particularly if you're running your own business, to help you. And this is relevant to anything in life. We work with high-end business people and sports people and everyday people. It's okay to ask for help. And that has challenged me, but also I feel is a really strong value of it puts me into the client role. And I feel that that's invaluable. And if I am asking someone, giving them tools that put them into an uncomfortable place to grow, I feel I should be doing the same for myself and making myself uncomfortable to grow. And that's just my value.
No, I mean, you're completely right. I mean, I'm experiencing this at the moment because about 3 weeks ago, I decided to set up a YouTube channel and vlog daily and also set up a podcast, neither of which I've done before, right?
Yeah.
YouTube channel is particularly, the podcast is fine because I'm just talking to stuff I know about or talking to people I like talking to. So that's no stress. But the YouTube stuff is so humbling because I remember I'm only on 14 days through vlogging at the moment, so I'm quite new into it. But I remember on the second day, I spent like 3 hours filming, I spent about 4 hours editing, and 6 people saw it and 1 person liked it. And I was like, wow, I really am a beginner at this. It's like all those years, and I've done this all my life. It's all I can do is like coach, like fitness. It's all I can do. It's all I'm good at. And all that effort. And I look at other people who maybe are like 17, 18, and I've got like 10,000 followers or 1 million followers. And the content is not particularly accurate. And I'm like, oh my God, I have to sort of just be humble and realize I'm starting from scratch. Because if I'm going to do something, I want to do it. So I've kind of committed I'm going to do regular things on YouTube for at least a year. And that means I have to accept that I'm a complete beginner and I'm a bit of a nobody in the online, because my life is offline because I'm in my mid-40s and my career was built offline because that's how you build a career.
And this is our challenge. They may have a different one, but this is our challenge. I totally feel you that I'm learning the technical side.
I'm feeling very humbled, which is a good thing. Yeah. Sometimes there's a danger when you work with superstar clients or magazines say nice things about you. You feel really good about yourself, and then you do a video and no one likes it. You go, okay, right. You realize that you shouldn't get too up yourself when the highs go really high, and you shouldn't get down on yourself when the lows go low. It's better to be on an even keel, I think. Yeah. And just see it for what it is.
I think I totally agree. A podcast has been on, I think it's very topical, but it's been on my list, but the technical side can kind of overwhelm me, which has partly come from the illness that I had. And then, the latest few things in my life have definitely kept me grounded, let's say, in life, which I think is good. But I think it's also, I'm open to sharing because I think it brings the human angle as a trainer into your sessions. So if someone is having a hard time, they can relate, that you can relate on a human level as well as a professional level.
Through hell, Kim. I mean, you've come through. I mean, do you mind talking about it?
I'm cool. You can ask me whatever. Right, I'll tell you if I don't want to talk about it.
I mean, when was it? Like 5 years ago?
It's longer. Like if we're talking about the Leptospirosis and Val's disease, which is so I got that from swimming in open water. So I was doing a warm-up race a week before going to the European Triathlon Championships. I was feeling the best that I'd ever felt, and I went to do this warm-up race. And if anyone's listening and like ever doubts their instinct, listen to your instinct, because I was like, it's a bit cold and I get really bad Raynaud's. So I thought, it's unusually cold. It was a May race. It was kind of like 4 degrees in the morning. The water there was just something, I'm pretty intuitive, and there was something about the water that just made me think, I don't know if I want to swim in it, but it's been tested, so I'm going to go in. And you have that like athlete mindset and also that kind of focus of don't be silly, get in the water. Long story short, I was really ill. I mean, it took about a week to incubate itself. So I just had normal kind of sickness and diarrhea. Sorry if you're eating, but for a week. And then within 12 hours, I had neurological problems, liver, kidney problems. And I would say it took me 2 years to get back to move forwards to a different type of living. And it's something that I've had to learn to live with and adapt massively, like my whole lifestyle. There were probably 5 months that I didn't really leave my house or I was very, very unwell. It's had a big impact on my life, but it's also other things have happened since then, which I think when I had that experience, I remember a couple of years ago saying, well, if I can deal with that, I can deal with anything. And the universe and life, has a way of like giving you other things to deal with. So I've stopped saying that. I'm just like, I am open to whatever is going to happen. And I think it's really important to set goals and things, but I also think that it's important to understand yourself and be able to live in the present day, in the moment. And to make sense to the listeners, that comes from a family suicide, which again I'm happy to talk about. But that impacted me on another level in a different way. And the combination of those two things, combined with, you could say, some lesser life things like, sort of a very long-term relationship. He had an affair and left, and dog died suddenly, and all of this happened within 18 months. So that's happened in the last 2 years of my life, if we exclude COVID. And so the Vase disease was sort of like the 5 years before that, but 3 years were like trying to recalibrate my life, while still maintaining. I'm really proud that I've managed to maintain my business through this. Obviously, there were gaps in it, but it's sustained. So yeah, that's a bit of a ramble, but it kind of gives you the more personal, updated story of where I am with everything, and an understanding of the complexity of the human mind and body and soul, and that depth excites me in the potential of how I can help people. I feel in a profound way if they're ready, but also I'm really respectful of, you could give somebody something very small and it could really help them. So not everybody needs that in-depth stuff, and I really respect that. I listen to people.
But I do like your approach, where you do kind of blend, I guess, mindset, movement, mental well-being, I guess, and also a lot of like inner confidence. Am I right in saying that? You kind of blend those sort of four things together pretty much. So if you hadn't gone through what you went through, do you think you'd be coaching in a different way?
I'm sure I'd be coaching in a different way, but I did my NLP masters and hypnotherapy, timeline therapy, sports psychology. I did all of that before I was really ill. I did my NLP practitioners in 2006, and then my masters in 2008. So when
for people who don't know NLP, can you explain what it is?
Yeah, so and it kind of freaks some people out, and some people don't like it, and it has good and bad press. It's neurolinguistic programming. For me, it's one of my tools, and the simplest way is it's how you program your thoughts and your language in your head, and therefore how it like influences and controls your life. There's so much more than that, but that's a very simple example. And what led me to it was when I was doing the fitness and performance and the sports therapy and the strength training with everyone, they were getting great physical results, but they were still not believing in themselves. And I think on a level I wasn't believing in myself. And I thought, I want to learn something else. And so I think I am so grateful that I have those tools, because there is I fully believe there is no way I'd be talking to you today if I didn't have those tools to get through when I was so ill. I used all of them and more. And from the trauma, because I was directly involved with the suicide search, the understanding of trauma and like neurology and the endocrine system and PTSD, and I say none of those things lightly, and I give them with much respect. It's an evolution, so it's been there from before. So I'm sure what's happened has impacted how I coach. It couldn't not, but it was part of my true belief that the mind and body is intrinsically linked, and it's always been my purpose to help people understand themselves, mind and body, know that it's connected, but everyone is uniquely different. So how can I help them find what is going to work for them? And I believe in I believe in the individual I see in front of me without all of the stuff that they have. I hear what they say, but it's almost like I can see through that and go, let me help you get to that point.
Now, do you get what's happened in me in recent years? Because obviously I've got slightly different philosophies. We all do, because it's all based on our own personal experience. But I've been more clear in my own head about what I stand for and why, and as I've been more vocal about it, like on websites and marketing stuff, I've had people hire me without any real goals. Who just said, I kind of like what you're about. Can you just help me? Did you get that? Do you get people to say, just look after me, Kim?
I get a lot of my like one-to-one work is through word of mouth, and
do they come with like a very clear agenda, or do sometimes they're not too sure?
It's one or the other. So the standard email is either so and so recommended you. They said that you might be able to help. I don't really know what you do, but can you help me? And then it.
Well, let's explore that. So what do you do? So if someone, if I wrote you an email like that, how do you go about actually finding out where you could help them, and how do you start the process of coaching them to the next level?
Yeah, so I just have a really relaxed chat of, what is it that you think you'd like some help with? Where are you at in your life? What caused your friend, colleague, athlete, coach, whoever to say get in touch? Did they share what they did with me? What is it that you would like? And I'm really clear on making sure that it's the right fit. I'm very good at referring out, if I feel I'm not the right fit, and also making sure it's the right time for them to work with me, as in, the timing of what I do with someone is really important. So the timing, but yeah, it's very easy. If you have that empathy and connection with someone and they've come through a recommendation, they generally trust you, and I'm very, respectful and trust them. So we just have an open conversation, and it's quite easy to kind of go, this is what we can do, and then we go for it. And the other email I always get is, this is my adventure or race or challenge. Can you help me achieve it? I'm really scared about it. Or I am recovering from this mental or physical illness, but I want to do this challenge, and I've heard that everyone thinks I can't do it, but you're the person that says that I still can.
They must be exciting emails.
Sorry?
They must be really exciting emails to get, the last ones, when people have been through stuff.
Yeah, they all are. Everyone's been through stuff,
Yeah.
So, you're the person that says, like, you might be able to help me. Nine times out of 10, I'm very confidential, but I remember one guy, I work with a lot of men as well as women, and one guy messaged me, and he sort of filled in the forms, came along, and then within like 10 minutes he downloaded all this other stuff, and I was like, oh right, okay, so the plan that I said we're going to do does not include all that stuff. And he said, I don't know why I've told you all of that, because I wasn't going to. And it's just, I think, the human angle. But the best bit about that story is that it really, his words, it transformed and saved his life. And I feel honoured that it did. And, just some simple tools helped him. So, yeah.
So let me ask you, you kind of get your message out in a few different ways. Like you write for magazines. Mm-hmm. You're also an expert in many magazines where they interview you. You've given a TED talk, which I loved, by the way. It was great. So now you're Sweaty Betty ambassador. You do so many different things, which I love, to get your message out. But I want to tell me about the Hound of Happiness, because I think this is so cute. And for people listening, I'm holding it because I bought it and I love it. Tell me about it.
Well, I want to write, and I will write my big book. Like, this is like my big book, and air quote that. And I was starting to write it and realized, like, post leptospirosis and encephalitis, that my brain, I've had to like teach my brain to learn again. The part of my brain that's been affected is the social side, so having like conversations, and lockdown in sense of the encephalitis has helped, because busy, noisy environments, I find it very difficult to, like, actually focus on that one person and have a conversation. And the effect of my brain like links into similar models of like anxiety and social anxiety situations, and so I can help people with understanding that, but it's how it's affected my brain meant that I used to be able to read books very quickly, and I love to write, and when I was starting to write, it's like my brain doesn't, it doesn't add things up. Like there's a disconnect, so I can get the sentences in the back of my head, but to bring them together onto paper, and it's basically like retraining my brain to do stuff again, because I in the initial bits, like I didn't know my name, I forgot a lot, and I forget how far I've come. So I realized the bigger book wasn't going to come together in the way that I wanted it to, and also I was trying to write a book from my old identity as an athlete that was competing for GB, but I wasn't. So it wasn't syncing in authenticity for me, and it wasn't flowing, and it wasn't working. But I was determined to finish the project I'd set for myself. And so then I just was like, I'm going to write 52 simple tips and that will help people to feel good. And I have a mentoring year that has a different topic each month, and it goes holistically for the whole, year of, so we look at work, we look at life, we look at relationships, love, fitness, health, environment, travel, adventure. We look at all these areas and we discuss them all, and they bring in basically everything I've worked with. And so that I broke the 52 tips into like 4 in each section, and was like, right, I'm going to write that. And I wrote it out, and I got a friend to do the graphics of, that's my old dog who'd said, well, he wasn't old, but he passed away, rescue dog. And it was kind of like our little story of like rescue dog and me getting ourselves back together. It was much easier to hide behind him and, like it's his book. But the best thing about that book was I crowdfunded it, self-published it, did it pretty much myself, apart from this amazing, 2 friends who helped me with it. And also my very good friend stroke cousin who took her life, she helped me greatly with that. And it's had its own little life. Like I've had so many people message me saying it's helped me so much, because it doesn't look like a self-help book, but I can just open up a page, read 4 lines, and it's just like on my breakfast table. It's in, the bathroom. It's in my bag. Kids have had it. Parents have bought copies for kids.
Yeah, it's not intimidating. It's just lovely, and it's but the messaging is profound. So
Yeah, and I give all the profit from it to charity. I choose little charities every quarter and give it to them. It's never that much, but it makes a difference, and I promote that charity. Charity work's always been part of my whole business, my whole life.
All the running events you've been doing over the last few years, they've been charity ones, haven't they?
Yeah, my accountant always laughs. He's like, you probably have a skewed perception because you raise so much for charity. He's like, your business doesn't reflect what you raise for charity. But I've raised money since I was, I don't know, like 12. It's been in what I want to do. I think coming from that profound place of not being happy, it's just something that's given me a purpose always. So I think in total we're at £86,000, £86,000, and that's through my lifetime, and some of that's through community events and that I've organised for groups of people. But it's given me as much as hopefully it's given the charities that I've worked with. And a lot of people said, oh, you should focus on just one charity, but I kind of theme it every year. We do a big thing every other year, but theme it every year on, finding little charities that have meaning to either clients that I've worked with or personal meanings, put story around it, do the challenge, write about the experience of doing the challenge, making a difference. And my whole sort of thing with it is hopefully people see me taking on a challenge, we raise money to make a difference, and then the combination helps a life or two, and also helps someone who reads the challenge that I've set myself. So it's like a full circle. I mean, we've raised, I think, I've raised £2,000 through lockdown as well, doing things. So, and I've done, added up 250 hours of community volunteering as well. So
I feel very bad about myself now.
No, please don't. Absolutely. I don't want anyone to feel bad because it's given me so much. And also I live on my own, and, through the other situations, it's about as much as helping myself as well as helping others. So it's a circle of support. I always say that.
Let me ask you a little bit about the business side of things. I'm always interested in sort of peers who run businesses, successful businesses. Did you have a very clear vision for your business when you first set it up, or did you kind of fall into it? Or because I know mine, I didn't have a very clear vision, and it became clearer the older I got. It got clearer and clearer, and now it's like an obsession. But originally, it wasn't an obsession at all. It was just like a lifestyle business.
Yeah.
How about you? What's your views on business? Have they changed over the years?
I love it. It's just see them smiling, which the audience won't. But I'm only smiling because, yes, this question would have challenged me. I had a really clear business, idea, a really clear vision, a really clear desire, motivation, reasons, value, name, everything really, really clear and on it until, I was so ill. And it's actually been the latter years that have challenged me to realign and to find my direction and find my purpose and find, the next level that I'm going to take it to, and how am I going to do that? And I think that's been humbling, challenging, and exciting, all in one word, because I think we're often taught to, you need to have a business plan, you need to have clarity, you need to have goals, you need to set them, you need to smash them. And, that's sort of put out there for everything. And I think that I have learnt through various experiences, but particularly the delayed trauma, to go, sometimes that actually isn't going to be there. And your goal is today, or, this hour, or tomorrow, or a week. But your goal is also to meet yourself where you are so that you can actually work through that. But first of all, you have to accept where you are. And that can be, the really challenging bit. So yes, I've had periods of time with great structure and clarity, and other times when I haven't. And I think that that's human, and it can be really challenging if you are someone and you also put yourself under the pressure, and that people know you. And I don't know whether you've experienced it, but I've had, challenging social media, trolls, or whatever you want to call them, from the experiences. And I think pulling yourself back and going, what's my short-term plan? If anyone's listening and they've suffered that, or they are experiencing, judgment of themselves or others, I think it's just, you have to pull yourself back and ask yourself, like, what's most important right now? And I spent far too long focusing on 2 or 3, direct messaging things that were really, really unpleasant, and forgetting about what was really important to me in my life and mission, and B, all the other things that people had said that were good, and the people that I'd helped. And it's really important to just bring yourself back into, like, what's helpful for you right now if you're not okay.
Well, once I get some hardcore criticism, which I'm bound to at some point, hopefully, then I'll give you a shout, because
come to me, because I got it. Yeah, I've got it down.
I'd love someone to sort of say, to call me like a fake or bullshit, or say something on Instagram, because I'd happily argue, because I'm quite happy to argue my case for anything I write. But no one's ever done that yet, so maybe I need to be a bit more exciting in my posts. Maybe
I wasn't it. So I think challenging things come from other people. When you are challenged and you share something challenging, in terms of, so mine came from not sharing in an educational way, but also a just like, this is where things are, guys, so I might not be so present, was, affair, dog, suicide. And they were just, it was one factual post, and the messaging was then around, how do you think you are a good coach if these things have happened?
Oh my God.
And so it was quite a profound question, and from a peer I would know. So all I can take is, on some level, I think I felt that myself. And so it impacted me much more because I was questioning, because it was kind of like a reflection, and I was questioning that. If I didn't question that, maybe
insecurity, but that was ridiculous. I mean, just because you happen to feel insecure, but like 1% of you might believe something, doesn't mean it's right.
Yeah, and maybe this doesn't, this is the truth, that it took me on a massive journey of, self-reflection around that. It really did challenge me hugely, combined with everything else that was happening. But I in a way, I'm grateful for that, because it took me on that experience of really, questioning some core life things. And I think as a female, the age I am, not with a relationship, family, children, that it is actually a topical thing that people are scared to discuss, but also people have opinions around, where you should be at different ages and what you should be doing. And so it's, it paused and caused me to reflect a lot, and also to know that I'm not the only person. There will be other people who experience things. People only question things because they may be questioning something in themselves. I'm not saying that any of that is okay, but you have to come to a point of acceptance in yourself, or else you can't grow. Like, it paralyzes you.
Yeah, that's true. So what's your views on social media then? And that's a very open question.
It's a very big question. And I think if you'd asked me at various different stages over the last year, I would have given you different responses, because social media changes quickly. I think now I feel that my intention is always to use it in a positive light, but my intention to use it as a consumer as well as a creator is to use it with a positive intention, and to sit down and be very aware of, and by positive intention, I mean, like, not spending time doing, say, reflection, comparison, or anything that, but just engaging with people and actually using it for good, but also having boundaries and noticing, because it is set up to make you spend more time on it. So if you notice that you're spending more time on social media than your actual, like, friendships in person, or if you can't do in person, obviously now, on the phone, having a discussion with them, seeing them in person, I feel that those things are really, really important. I feel that social media, when I've talked to people, can be a real lifeline to them, as well as a real sort of sabotage to them. And I think it's very different for everybody. So it's understanding, like, how does it work? My family, most of them are not on social media. Most of my friends aren't on social media. But some of the businesses that I work with are like, we need you more on social media. So I think you have to understand what you want to do with your business. If I'm answering it professionally, like, what do you want to do with your business? How do you want to spend your time? And then you have to not play the game, but you have to show up in the way that, if you were like running a marathon, you have to do the preparation. If you want to be great on, like, YouTube, like you were saying, you have to understand how to do the editing and the lighting. And, like I said, when we came on, my lighting is rubbish, because I haven't played that game, as in I haven't learned, invested, and got good lighting. And so, yeah, I feel there's amazing people I've connected with through social media that I feel very grateful for. I've just completed my yoga teacher training, and that showed me a different light to, like, a positive influence to social media. But the end bit, I think, is asking yourself, why am I using this? And is it a distraction to something else I could be doing that would add a greater value?
I mean, for me, like, if I didn't have a company, if I didn't have to promote myself, I wouldn't be on any social platform, because I don't.
Me too.
I don't really like sharing everything about myself. And the more I share, the more people will engage with me and the more people will buy the things I sell. So it makes sense. So over the years, I've gradually sort of shared more because it helps to sell stuff. It helps me. I'm passionate about what I do, as are you. I like my courses and products, but I do think it brings out the worst in me, and it brings out characteristics I don't particularly value, like narcissism, for example. You know what I mean? Like if you're a trainer, if you you'll get more attention if you showcase your body, for example.
Yeah. Well, you'll see on my platform I don't.
So if you would have 10 times more followers.
Yeah, and that has.
Except, you know what? I'm going to play it my way, but that's not the way which the algorithm supports, in a way.
Well, that's talking about playing the game and understanding what you want to get from it. But I do think as a smaller platform, you can make a great impact. And if you really think about how you want to use it, you can make a great positive impact. And I try to think of it that I'm going on to help that one person today that needs it.
Well, that's what I've been doing to remind myself, because when I do that, I just hate it. And it's really clear when I went through a stage of just mocking fitness influencers and YouTubers, and that doesn't really help. It just made my peers laugh a little bit, but it doesn't really help my business. It just made me look a little bit passive aggressive. You know what I mean? So I'm trying now to be a bit more kind of helpful, but it's not as controversial. And controversial is what kind of, if you're very controversial in the fitness industry, you'll get a lot more attention, and you can justify that ethically by saying, hey, if I get more attention, I can help them because more people know who I am. But it also comes down to your philosophical belief if you think that means justify an end. And I don't. I think the way you do things is more important than the actual result. But that means I'm destined not to be that big on any of these platforms, which I have to kind of, as a business owner as well, and as someone who's got employees, that's a moral dilemma, because I know that by me sticking to my guns, I'm restricting growth. I'm restricting like pay rises for people who work for me. So I find it such a tricky one to get my head around, and I haven't really figured it out yet. I'm just sort of.
Well, it's very fluid though as well. Like we could have this interview in, a month, and I'm pretty sure it would be different, because particularly during COVID and the global economy, for a want of a better word, it's evolving fast, and I feel that
online, so
it's all changing, and where people will, but that's an opportunity too. But I think it's evolving, and I think that what we share now will be maybe not relevant, some of this, and we also may change what we think in a month or two, and so will the audience listening, because everything is changing.
You're right. However, Kim, I feel like to get really proper, good work done, be it like writing a book or creating a program, that requires time and effort and real focus. And I find that personally, I can't do that if I'm swiping left, right, and center and looking at all these different stimuli. I need to kind of lock myself away. It's like book. I don't know if you read it. Deep Work. Newport.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of what's his name? Carl Jung did. You have to sort of lock yourself away to get work done. And I feel like the more, I'm doing YouTube and I'm doing podcasts, over the last month, I've barely done any work in my mind. I've seen some clients, but I've got these big projects I'm working on, which have been put on hold because I'm so busy swiping and editing podcasts and editing things, which I see as a little bit like, that's not my main work. That's a periphery, and it's become like more of a central thing. My main work is creating things. Do you know what I mean? Like big.
Well, I mean, all I would give you or anyone listening is like, what's your 3 priorities for the next month? Like, what's your focus on?
Oh, cool. You're going to coach me live on air.
Yeah. Well, what's your why for doing those 3? And yes, if you want, like many people I've coached, they consciously take themselves off or download their time on social media if they're going to write a book, or they're going to write a project, or they're going to create a dance show that they're going to go on tour, or they're going to get ready to go on an adventure. And I think that many of us don't remember that we remember. Like I have people who still will, see me locally and say, hey, how's your triathlon? I'm like, I haven't done it for 8 years. And they're like, oh, no, but when you did that race. And so people remember that they saw a picture on, that long ago. And the people that I work with are, I mean, not everyone, but some of them are really known names, and they hardly post, but they're really focused on whatever project they're doing. And the social media is a side product that they will do something with.
Yeah.
And then I do coach some people who have insane social media followings, but that's their book, as in, that's their time.
Yeah.
And I have evolved to, I really respect the time that they put into it and the hours, but that is their business model. That is, when you're talking about a business plan, their business plan priority is the platform of the social media that they're working on.
Do you think, like, if I thought I could really educate and make a difference through, like, posting every day, like tips, I would do that, but I think it's a bit superficial. I don't think if people just like swiping through, if I write a quote or a tip on how to do a deadlift, I think when people are on Instagram, they're not fully receptive to learning as they were if they buy like an online program or buy a book where they're more invested. And I think when I do like long form stuff, like create programs, which people can buy, there's thousands and thousands of hours directly put into that. So I can go really in depth. And then I can make more of a profound difference to people rather than just trying to inspire them to get a bit fitter. I want to educate people and teach them, go through all the details, because it's hard to make a change in your life. So I feel like I can make much more of a difference. That's why I like one-to-one coaching, because you can do it one-to-one, and why I like quite like hybrid, quite intensive programs rather than, like I said, rather than doing events or rather than doing like social media. So that's why I don't like it, because I know for me, I like going more in depth. But for you, I mean, you like going, I mean, I don't know, do you feel the same way? Or?
I love one-to-one and I love going in depth, but I also know that not every person loves that, like as in wants that or has the time for that in their life. And so I feel that in the social media or a newsletter or something, if I can give someone, just like maybe that tip of the deadlift, or maybe the journaling prompt, or maybe maybe whatever it is, just one sentence can inspire someone to feel better in that moment, but also could be normally a change happens from one sentence. It's a build up, but then somebody says one thing and the domino effect. And so that's how I see it. I also know from some followers who follow some of the huge influencers that I know they impact their life through their daily posts. I absolutely know they do. But I equally know that many of my clients are not on any form of social media at all. So I think it's, do what works for you.
Yeah. I clearly haven't figured it out myself yet.
I'll help you, Dan. I'll help you. It's fine.
So how are you finding lockdown?
Yeah, it's and I am no oracle, but it's different for everyone, I think. And if anyone's listening, everyone has said to me, every person I've worked with has said, oh, everyone's feeling like this. And all I can say is everyone is feeling something. Everyone is going through the experience of chaos and change, but your experience is yours, and it will probably be very different to your neighbor, your family member, your friend, because it's you. And so I think also everyone has found it incredibly tough at times, and then they've found moments of joy or happiness or reconnection. And I think like that has been the same for everyone to lesser or greater extents. And obviously if I'm thinking of a couple of frontline people I've worked with, and then say volunteering for Vera down the road, and then working with my two 17-year-old athletes that should have gone to Tokyo and then Strictly Come Dancing. How is lockdown? It's so diverse, and I would just say to anyone, like, how has it been for you, and what have you learned that you've actually loved or enjoyed, and what do you need to let go and change? I find it a challenging roller coaster too, in terms of most of my business is in areas that aren't working now, on top of the roller coaster of all the things we've talked about. it's been a huge challenge, but it's been my complete commitment to show up. And I've given a lot of time to people, which I know I need to sort of slightly rebalance. I live on my own, which gave me a lot of time to, let's say, access the trauma of the suicide. And I only say that smiling because, it was pretty uncomfortable and dark. But I think without that time, it's still something I definitely need to work through. But that's been an effect. I mean, I feel lockdown's just been I don't mean just. It's a heightened. When I'm working with people, like if you're in a relationship and a family, you just would love some time on your own. And then if you're on your own, you would just love to have, a hug and be with someone. And that's kind of like life anyway. And lockdown has just like massively heightened that and caused us to like look at everything. And the outcome of that is some things have been really hard. And, I've directly been affected with COVID and family members, and I've had friends, and so I see, the human effect of it. But I think the only thing that we have is like what we can control, and that may be a very small part of what we can control, or it may be a bigger part, but we will still have some choices that we can work through. And, I'm in a more financially secure position than some, but I know that I'm definitely not in the most financially secure position. But I've spent the summer, like I grow my own veggies, I've walked and cycled everywhere, and I've given a lot of my time, and I trust like in the process of, that it will come good and we will get there. But I do think, this is just my own opinion, that it's going to be a chaotic ride for a little bit longer than people may hope for. And if you can plan to be committed to your own wellness and your circle's wellness, whoever that is, family, friends, particularly over the winter months till next spring, and you make a plan to look after yourself during that time, and you take the ownership of that, you're going to fare much better than if you're lurching back and forth hoping that normal will return, because I think normal is going to be different because it can't not be. But that's just my thoughts, and I'm happy to help anyone.
I mean, it's great advice. I think it's particularly useful to entrepreneurs and small business owners as well, because I've made quite major structural changes in my work because I didn't think it'd be over in a few months, and I didn't panic. I sort of took my time, and that's kind of helped me out, I think, rather than just hoping things will get better soon. And I see a lot of people in our industry kind of like pretending it's not really around, rather than actually fundamentally thinking, how can I adapt my business to this current situation?
Yeah, I think I'd also add, two things. One of like, don't bypass the negative emotions. So it's like, as we're talking, people might think like we haven't had the negative emotions, but I know that you've had a tough experience, and, I have too. And I think like anger, sadness, fear, hurt, what the hell is happening, like all of that, you've got to feel that. Don't bypass it, or you're going to really like get stuck. And I also think denial is another form of coping. And so if someone, denial is another form of coping, being stuck, sitting, watching television and eating too much, running around and never stopping, being busy, like all these things are just human nature for coping. And I feel from, the things that I've experienced, particularly with the encephalitis, that was like a lockdown for myself. And so there's a real mirror there that I feel hopefully I can help people go, like, we will get through this, or we won't be here, like one or the other. If you're, and I'm quite pragmatic, which is challenging sometimes, but that is how I see it. And in that, I want to have a humanity where I can help someone if they're in denial, if they're in like about to burn out, if they're stuck in like not moving. And it's a fight or flight response. It's and all the news and the messages we're given, they actually provoke all of that. So that's where I say, like, if all of that is heightening in you, just give yourself time to turn everything down, switch everything off, and, just really connect in with, what works for you. And I think what works for anyone is time in nature, time outside. I think music and dance even if you don't think you can dance, just like actually moving your body in a multi-plane martial arts, but, just the freedom. If you like to cook, if you don't like to cook, having a takeaway that actually brings in like different senses, hydrating, finding some form of routine and sleep, writing, and talking to, a friend. And if you don't think you can talk to a friend, talking to, a charity or a professional person, all of those things, I think the basic things, and actually writing down when you're feeling good, what helps you when you're not good, and sticking that somewhere, or having it in a drawer. Because when you're not feeling good, you will not remember the things that help you when you're not good. But when you're good, you can write it down. And most people then don't write it down. So I would write down just the simple things that help you so that you can do that.
When people go through hard times, all this advice is solid. What's interesting now is I think it's just a collective kind of grief or collective trauma, be it a low level or a high level. And it's just wellness and health and having a positive mindset is kind of more important than ever, because it's so kind of in our faces that it's stressful. It's stressful financially and emotionally. There's so many things which majority of us are now feeling compared to where we were 6 months ago. So it has the importance of a fitness industry, a wellness industry, of people like you. It's being heightened, I think.
Yeah, I would say the importance of having a helpful mindset. The importance of engaging when you're feeling positive and actually feeling that, but actually having a helpful mindset to yourself. So what can I do that is helpful for myself? And then what can I do that is helpful for others? And also thinking about, there are a lot of fear things, but what are the things that are okay? Even if they're just the tiniest things, but remembering that there is always some good in, whatever that is. And I think the people that I've been volunteering for have shown me that, because, they are in really challenging situations, and their joy when I appear just, is profound. And they're very one person I think it was an incredibly isolated older lady, and I happened to meet her when I was walking my dog, and I just had a chat with her, and I said, do you need any help? And that's how that happened. And I just go and check in on her, and never underestimate the power of a conversation for yourself as well as the person that you're talking to.
Yeah. On a selfish level, this is why I like doing this podcast, just talking to people. I find it mentally so stimulating and just interesting. It feels it's not quite the same as face to face, but it's really close. That's why even though people are only listening, the way I'm recording this on software, I can actually see Kim, she can see me, and it's so much more fun because you can actually see people's expressions and stuff. And conversation is so powerful. It's important. It's part of.
And when we came on, I said I'd had lunch with my brother, and I hadn't seen him since February, and it just reminded me of the importance of connection. And I think that if you've had lockdown on your own, you may have forgotten the power of human connection in person. Because I was like, oh, don't worry, because it's a bit of a detour out from where you live, because he lives 8 hours away and they're doing a little tour. And I said, don't worry, because I didn't want him to do extra driving. And I said, we chatted on the phone and I've seen you, it's fine. And I'm so glad he was like, no, we're going to come. And, it prompted me to go, and I do like cooking. And I made a really, really nice lunch, and they were only here for an hour and a half, but it really, really made a difference. But the message for the listeners to get is the power of connecting with people that know you, your good friends, your family, whatever that means to you. That's important, and that should be above, too much social media time at times. I get business wise, sometimes you need to do that, but don't do it at a cost of your own actual core relationships, because that is part of your health.
I mean, I'm quite hopeful that more people are realizing this now because of the situation you're in. What do you think?
I think it's complex. I don't think there's answer. I think it's complex. I think some people are. I think some people are maybe more isolated. I think whoever is listening needs to take the bits from this that resonate most with them and find a connection. I think it's complex. I think life experiences. Sorry?
Like an owl.
Like an owl.
Owl. Owls are wise.
I used to collect hippos just to lighten the tone, which always surprises people. As in not real hippos, toy hippos. I have.
No, that'd be a weird hobby to get into.
Yeah.
Why did you collect hippos?
So I hope the audience is enjoying the end of our conversation. My family history is very interesting, and my mum's side come from, well, America, Norway, and Jerusalem, but founded Jerusalem, basically, as in that's where the foundation of the family were. And the dad's side spent time in Zimbabwe. My mum was born in Zimbabwe, so as a child, I spent time growing up in those two countries, which probably also means, at a very, very young age, Zimbabwe and Jerusalem are not most stable countries to spend time in. And also, I was running around with lots of black people, and so that was very normal for me as a 3-4-year-old. And then I was in Jerusalem with rocks thrown through, cars, and at 6, and I was like, oh, cool, that's what happens when you go to the shops. And then I went to school in Aberdeen with 6 other people and my guinea pig. So, but to answer the question of why do I collect hippos, when we were in Zimbabwe, I loved the hippos. And then I was a bridesmaid for my godmother, and we went to London Zoo as a very little person, and I didn't like London at all, but I just stood by the hippos for a long time, and then she gave me a little hippo to calm me down, and that led me to collecting toy hippos, and much abuse from my brothers of me representing a hippo in shape. So there we go.
Let me ask you one final thing. In terms of your business, I guess, and your career, I know you said sometimes it's about sort of being and accepting how things are. Sometimes you have more goals. Where are you right now? I mean, you do so many things and you help so many people. Do you have a clear view of how that's evolving over the next couple of years, or you're not thinking about that at all?
I'm thinking about it. I don't have a clear view because I don't know anybody in this climate who could have a definite view. You could have a clear view, but
I mean, a clear view of what you want to strive towards, I guess, because you've achieved so much in the industry. You're so well respected in the industry, so you don't have to do anything. You've proven yourself, so it's all about your own intrinsic motivation.
Oh no, I appreciate those words, but I feel that that I appreciate those words, but there's work to do. I feel I do a lot, but I feel like if you bring it together, my one core thing is I help people believe in themselves and unlock their potential, which is my fundamental core value. What I want to do with it is develop that into a model that means that more people can access what I do. Or build a course that means that the range of things that I have learned can reach more people and make a bigger difference from all sorts of different backgrounds. Because we touched on the charity work and the running that I do, but I feel that in many different communities around the world, I really want to have that impact. And the age I am now, I did want children. I don't know if that will happen, and so I feel like on a purpose level that has more of a purpose to me now, is that I really want to help younger people as well to realize that they can have a sense of purpose. I will write that bigger book, and I feel like there is a second TEDx or TED Talk, because the first one was highly stressful and I was super nervous. But I also feel that what I've learned since that talk, is profound, and I want to share it to make a bigger difference. I've always said, I want to make 100,000 for charity. So I'm 14K off that. And I think just, live a little bit again, because it's been a hard 7 years. I wouldn't say I've had any real holidays or time out, because the time out has been medical healing and budgeting life. I've had some great days and great times, and I'm very grateful. But I think that balance has been, time with people. If I could leave people with one thing, is please talk to the people that you really care and love about like why you do and what, but also do stuff with them. Because I work with a lot of people who lose people or things, and then they're like, I wish I said that, or I wish I did that. And none of us know like when our time's up, or also when someone else's time's up. And I just really wish that we all had the courage to be vulnerable, to say the stuff that we say when someone's not there. Yeah. So I really wish that for everybody. And I also wish that there's any self-sabotage or judgment or fear or all of that shit that we all do, that you just dial it down a little bit to yourself, because it's a journey to change it. And I've learned that, but it won't serve you. And you've only got yourself to live in. So try to come to a place of peace and helpfulness with yourself.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for your time today. Really, really like talking to you and listening to your advice.
I feel very honoured to be asked onto your podcast, and I hope the audience has liked it, and anyone's welcome to reach out. And
how can people get hold of you? How can people see what you do? You tell them.
I'm just at Kim Ingleby pretty much everywhere. And like I will see your DMs, or I use all the platforms, but
what's your website address?
Yeah, so the website I have too is kimingleby.co.uk, or Energized, which is SED, not the Z in the American way. So it's SEDperformance.com. Either of those, and don't be scared to reach out. Like sometimes people say, I don't want to message you because I'm not an athlete. I'm like, I work with people who are, my youngest was 12 and my eldest is 78, and everyone is normal. Even you'll know this, the media, celebrity people, we're just people. And so if you feel drawn to reach out, please do.
Hey, so I hope you enjoyed listening to Kim. I always like talking to Kim. Now, with every podcast, with every conversation, there hopefully is one or two elements which really resonate. Like for me, listening to that, there was one practical thing regarding social media, which after she said it, I was like, God, she's right. And I'm actually going to change my mindset. I have changed my mindset regarding social media just after listening to her words for like 20 seconds talking about it. So it's amazing. All it can take is a sentence from a podcast, or reading a quote on Instagram, or reading a book, or having a conversation with a friend, or overhearing something. And it's amazing. We can find inspiration everywhere. So please be open to that. Hopefully you're finding something in this podcast which resonates to you, be it on previous episodes or even this episode. So just be open to inspiration, be open to change, because there's good advice everywhere, but it doesn't mean shit unless you're open to it. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next Wednesday where I have another guest, the wonderful Abigail James. See you then. Bye.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the MX Podcast. All feedback, reviews and social shares are very much appreciated. To find out more about the Methodology X online members club, our award-winning MX group fitness classes, or to join our global family of MX instructors, please visit danrobertsgroup.com.